Okay, we're ready to start. Do you want me to share the remote meeting script, Bob?
Sure, that would be great, Nan.
Okay.
Okay. I will start. This open meeting of Northborough Trails being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, the town of Northborough has been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings. And as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. All members of the Northborough Trails Committee are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows Northborough Trails Committee to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations. The public encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Can you scroll a bit, Mia, please? I was getting my wife's name confused.
Is that enough?
My screen didn't move.
I will try to reshare it. Is that better?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's where I left off.
Okay.
Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. The meeting will not feature public comment. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Bill Cood.
Affirmative.
Forrest Lyford.
Present.
Cheryl Devine.
Present.
Brian Belfer.
Present.
Craig Cox.
Present.
Mary L. Stone. You're on mute, Mary L.
Got it. Present.
And staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Mia McDonald.
Present.
We'll invite each speaker by name to make a presentation and speak to their application. Participants will provide their full name and hold until their name is called. Each speaker will be asked to mute their phone or computer when not speaking. Speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. Those responding will be asked to wait until the floor is yielded to them by the chair. Speakers who wish to respond to the comments of others do so through the chair, taking care to identify themselves. Each vote taken by the board or committee will be conducted by roll call. And I believe that is it. So Mia circulated the meeting minutes from our April 27th meeting. And get the terminology right, someone could make a motion to vote on the minutes, which does not mean approval necessarily.
I'll move to vote on the minutes.
Anyone second that?
Anybody with me?
With Cheryl, who made the motion to vote, and Marielle seconded it. I think we have to do a roll call vote to approve and accept the April minutes. So Forrest Lyford.
Approved.
Bill Cobb.
Approved.
Brian Belfer.
Approved.
Cheryl Devine.
Approved.
Marielle Stone. You're muted, Marielle.
Can't hear you.
Still muted, unfortunately. I see the little, okay. Oh, let the record show Mariel using universal thumbs up sign language as
Approved. Sorry about that. I disconnected my laptop and my mouse is not working, so
okay.
I'm all set now. Sorry about that.
Craig Cox
Approved.
and Jim, Jim Stein joined late. We're just voting to approve the minutes, and Jim also gave
Yes, I approve.
verbal. All right. Minutes have been approved. So moving on to the May agenda. I just had a couple points to follow up on, one brand new and one concerning what we talked about at Watson Park last month. So I went out there with chainsaw and weed whacker and the mower, and actually the trail didn't need too much cutting of wood, but what I did was I got the mower and I drove the mower around the loop. That was the Eagle Scout project that Mariel did several years ago, making kind of out near the Maple Street. I forget what that street is out there, not Lyman.
Ridge
Ridge.
Road, maybe?
Ridge. So I did a little mowing through the meadow, didn't need it at all, but I had to get the mower over to that loop. And then so I drove the mower up in, and it was, I think as Bill may have noted, I couldn't find where part of the trail was. Fortunately, the blazes are painted pretty well on the trees, and I was able to navigate through there. I did drag a log out of the way that was blocking part of it. So at least it should be a little bit more visible now.
I was in there, Bob. It looks great.
Oh, good. All right.
I'll check it out tomorrow. Thanks, Bob.
Sure thing. Yeah, it was, I was going to get the backpack blower, and when I got to the shed, I realized I didn't bring any fuel with me for the backpack blower. So I was like, I'm just going to try the mower. So the mower worked pretty well, and cleaned that thing off. And yeah, there was some debris, some trash and things like that, in the parking lot, you could see where, yeah, that parking lot needs a lot of help. It was very muddy, big puddles and stuff. So hopefully we can do something there to, long term, maybe paved or something like that. Just so easier to plow. I forget the gentleman who was with us last, Steve Jobs. Mentioned that, yeah, I think he plows that for the town in the winter. I think if we had gravel in there when the plows come through, piles of gravel, so maybe paving it would be, so that's Watson Park. And then
Bob, Bob,
sorry, go ahead, Nate.
could I give you an update on Watson?
Sure.
So we had a list of incentive or initiatives, I think we should call it. So first with paving, I reached out to the DPW and got a cost estimate. It's going to be about $25,000 to repave. And they do not have that on their paving budget this year. Their paving budget has already been, spent on everything for this year. And so then I reached out next to the public boat access. We do have an agreement. The town of Northborough has an agreement with the public boat access from Fish and Wildlife to see what that requires. Because I mean, that loop is part of the access. So I did speak to someone and he's passing it on to his supervisor because for two reasons, maybe we could get on their paving list. They have a paving list as well. But also to find out if I only have an unsigned copy of the agreement. I don't even have a final signed copy in my Watson Park file here. So he's going to look into the agreement to see if they are responsible. Because last time the sign was repaired, they repaired the sign. And so he's going to look to see if they are responsible for the paving because it's a state boat ramp, then maybe we could do that next year. So, plan A is hopefully we can work with them. Plan B, now that we have a cost estimate, maybe we could go to CPC in the fall. When it comes time to submit your applications, you have to prioritize, which ones you want to go for. But 25,000, I think CPC likes to get applications like that, where you can really see a big bang for the buck. They'll see a nice before and after pictures. So that's the paving.
Mia, is
Yes.
this paving of the circle, the access from Lyman?
Yep.
Not any of our trails. We're not
No,
talking
just
about-
replacement of existing.
Okay.
The cameras, I did contact the police. I spoke with Chief Liver. He's fine with us putting cameras up there. They're just going to be pointed at the parking lot. I got a sign that says this area is under surveillance, and I had to order, I think I told you, more SD cards. So those just came in. So hopefully this week I'll get a camera up. I also kind of talked to him about where the illicit activity is, because I don't want to point the cameras there. I'm not interested in filming that. So just pointing it at the parking lot. Let me see my Watson list. We put it on the list of Eagle Scout projects and reached out to the local Scout troops. There's 3, and so they know about it, and they're passing it on to their Eagle Scout candidates. I also emailed the Garden Club, and we're on their June agenda about the maintenance of the pollinator garden. Because the Garden Club put it in, I think, in the 90s with the intent of expanding it. And so it would be nice if they have the time, and their June meeting is either just before or just after their sale. So if they have any extra plants, maybe they could just come down and pop them in the ground. And then the last thing you asked me to look into was the dog park. So I did reconnect with Scott Charpentier, the DPW director. DPW Water Department owns the land. So I just checked in with him. And Scott and Allie Lane, the rec director, and I are like kind of the staff who work on the dog park initiative. And I remembered we had reviewed Watson Park. I can't remember why it was ruled out. And so I talked to Scott, and he said because it wasn't big enough. We determined it was too small. And then he and I talked about even an installation of a small dog park. He said that would then, just picture a small dog park. What happens to the dog park is full. People are not going to leave. They're going to go play in the field right next door. And the field is the zone 1. So once you start getting dog poop in the zone 1, we are now in violation of state drinking water rules. So that's just a big old no-no. So the water department is not interested in considering a dog park for that area. So that's my Watson Park update. It's ongoing.
Right. Are those wells active, or that well?
No.
We don't use them, but they're fully permitted.
So like it's an emergency backup, basically.
Yep, the town keeps them, maintains them, but we don't use them. We purchase from MWRA. Those wells need a lot of treatment. So right now, the better option is MWRA.
But it still then is the zone 1 classification.
Yes. And we get in trouble if there were dogs pooping up there. Dog poop's a special kind of bad.
Yeah. I remember we had somebody present at one of the meetings when we used to meet in person at the station. And yeah, there was a pretty long list of bad things that
Sickness.
that makes sense. All right. I forget though. I'm looking at my notes from last time about what would an Eagle Scout project consist of at Watson Park.
I put out in the email that it could be any collection of replacement of the sign, cleanup, working on the pollinator garden, or you had talked about clearing a little bit along the edge and putting a bench in.
Okay.
Or maybe some sort of observation deck like we talked about too. I don't know if that's, something that could be permitted or not, but looks like there might be some potential for like an observation deck.
Yeah.
Looking out over the water, Marielle? Something like that.
Yeah, remember he was asking about fisherman access, although I think if you were to cast a line into all the weeds there, you'd never get your lure back. But there's bird watching potential. Just, it's not too far from the parking lot where you could have maybe a handicap or some sort of overlook. I've seen those done as Eagle Scout projects in other communities, just like an observation deck over the wetland area, and maybe some fishing. But again, I don't know if the water's deep enough and open enough for fishing really there.
Yeah, for what it's worth, Art Cole, as I recall, years and years ago, Art Cole had that same idea. He was talking about having an observation wharf, for lack of a better term, there, kind of off to the left of where the ramp is. And never followed through on that, but I think it's a good idea.
Like a barbecue grill on it and
I'm thinking more like just like, again, like sort of a deck that isn't too high off the ground with some benches, you know, and a railing that people could, again, kind of just sit there and by the water and observe the birds and the frogs and all that kind of good stuff.
yeah, because I think, you know, if we are considering, you know, an Eagle project of some sort, you know, it would have to be, I think, more than just maybe a bench or two. Maybe a couple benches and an observation deck, you know, something on that order. Yeah,
Well, there'd have to
down
be
here.
more too if it was wheelchair accessible, like some sort of
Yeah.
ramping.
oh, yeah, that would be possible there. Is that there's a little tiny bit of trail that goes between the parking lot where the cul-de-sac type thing is. It's like this little sliver of land between that and the pond.
Hmm.
And that's pretty flat right there. I mean, that would be something where getting a wheelchair accessible observation deck. Can we like drive pilings down into could this thing be out over the water, Mia?
Yeah, you just need a permit.
Okay. Never done anything like that.
It's like a dock. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like cantilevered or either a dock or a deck that's cantilevered over, or like you said, some footings of some sort, some pilings.
Helical piles would be what.
Yeah, we just talked about those and I think they probably work better there than the other site we were talking about.
All right, good ideas.
I did contact DCR about helical piles. Their initial response was no way. And I said, no, give me a call. And I called him and I said, we're not doing any extra work. These are just the bridges that are already there. And he said he'd get back to me. But you know, if you are working on replacing any boardwalk bridges and you use a helical pile instead of a cinder block, is anyone even going to know? Right.
Right. Just underneath.
Yeah.
for
Unless
everything in.
if they just don't tell me. Just tell me you maintained it. You know, maintenance is allowed. So I'm waiting to hear back from them. And we spoke about 2 weeks ago, and I'll poke them again. But you know, it was a very, you know, initially the email came, no, you cannot do any work on our property without our permission.
Oh.
And I called them up. It's no, really, it's just maintaining the bridges that are already out there. We're not expanding. We're just fixing.
What's the perceived problem with the helical pile? That it's permanent or?
I think we shouldn't have asked. We just,
I
because
think it's the anchoring system. So if you actually have the way we have them built now, is the blocks are just there and the bridges are just set on top of them and they're not necessarily anchored and fastened to the ground. And being like the flood control area, if you have them anchored with a helical, am I saying it right, post, that they could be more of an impediment when the flood waters move through.
Oh, okay.
That's what I understand the difference between actually
good point.
just sitting on top of the wooden blocks versus being actually physically attached and anchored to the ground is potentially causing
But
probably backwater effect.
Sometimes we cable those bridges to trees or nearby, and that would have the same effect essentially in a flood. So
Yeah.
Or
Also,
maybe
too, I
not
think,
anchor.
you know, if the bridges float away and then go block a culvert during a flood, that could also create.
yeah,
you know,
that's just as bad.
it's almost like you just can't win with some of these things. Other than having a floating bridge, which just as the flood water comes in, the floating bridge just goes up, you know, comes back down. Has anyone been over on the floating bridge on the Cold Harbor Trail lately? I don't know.
Yeah, one of the pontoons is but I don't know what you say about a pontoon that doesn't hold air anymore. It's waterlogged, not working.
Yeah, I was over there a couple weeks ago. I think that's leaking and it's kind of sinking down in it.
Yeah, all right,
Something bad.
those things are not all that expensive. I think they're like $50 each or $100 each. It might not be. Now replacing it is not all that easy. But you know,
Well, it's just a big hollow piece, like a big square plastic box with air in it, right?
I
It's
think they're
foam.
foam.
It's
Is it
plastic.
foam?
It's plastic encapsulated foam. But if they get broken, then the water will get in and then freeze thaw, and it'll just wind up chewing up the foam inside. And then
I think that's probably what happened.
and then they're
here.
no longer buoyant. But
It looks
Yeah.
like it's a little deformed, maybe from freezing or something.
Yeah, they do get trapped and they get stuck in the mud, and then when the mud freezes, then then the ice will crush it. Wow. But yeah, I'll go over. I'll take a look at that. Just see what sort of an assessment needs to be done on it. So speaking of Cold Harbor Trail, a concerned neighbor reached out to me, and I think we know this problem on the Cherry Street Meadow Boardwalk, but this neighbor said that the bees there's a end of the boardwalk kind of closer to Cherry Street. I mean, it's still pretty far from Cherry, not right when you come out of the woods, but when you walk along that boardwalk, and as you're about to step down onto the meadow grass there, he said that the bees are pretty angry.
The hornet's nest, Bob. I was over there on Saturday morning.
Yeah. So
It's underneath the thing.
yeah, and I went. So this happened last year, and maybe even the year before that. I went there in the winter, not like the dead of winter, but I went, when it was cold out and the likelihood of getting swarmed by hornets was less. And I went to take a look. I couldn't see anything, and then I tried to move, like just lift the boardwalk up a little bit, but it was basically frozen into the ground.
They're underneath. I watched them. They just go in between one crack of the planks.
Yeah.
I cut all the grass along that boardwalk Saturday morning. I made kind of a ruckus. They didn't really come out too bad. I think it's probably just getting going now.
Yeah.
Where is it again? You said Cold Harbor Trail at Cherry Street entrance?
Yeah, the Cherry Street Meadow. I think it was an old Eagle project that when Charlie Bradley was chairman, he mentored, I think it was an Algonquin football player. And I remember that because he got all his football player buddies to help him on this project. And it was like these guys were moving these massive sections of bridge, really fast. But anyway, so when you come out of the woods and you get up onto the boardwalk, it's about 100, I think it was 174 feet of boardwalk we put in. It's the far end that's out in the meadow. And it's still
About
quite
a
a
foot
distance
from the end.
What's that, Bill?
It's about a foot from the end. It's right at the very end.
Yeah, right before
And you said
step
it's
down.
hornets?
It looks like it's hornets. Yeah, I watched them for a while. They were coming in and out of there.
Can
But
you see like a
kind
paper
of
nest?
walked over there, and they didn't swarm me or anything. But it's probably still pretty early though. It's probably small.
Yeah, and if it was cool in the morning, they're less active when it's cooler out. Midday they might be, energized from the heat, perhaps, and a little bit more likely to swarm. But one of the things I was thinking of, instead of maybe trying to disassemble the boardwalk or pull some planks, what if we sealed it? What if we got something like that? That red, it's a can, it's red, and it's got this foam that comes out of it. It's not like caulking, but it's like, and it expands when you squeeze it out. Like if we basically tried to seal that section up, not necessarily to trap bees in there, but because they'll find a way out, but just so they don't come up, like go right up into your pant leg or something when you're walking across. I don't know if that or maybe even just caulking. Doesn't have to be
The expandable foam would probably be the easiest because you can stick the hose down between the crack and just fill it up.
What was that again, Bill?
That expandable foam, that's insulation. You just stick the tube down in the crack and probably fill it right up.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't necessarily see why that wouldn't work. Other than it may just cause them to come out from a different area and still be angry.
Yeah, you probably would have to kill the nest off first before you did that.
Yeah. So I think that would require popping a couple boards off,
If
get
you can,
access.
if you can get the spray with the little hose, just put the hose down there and then set it to the on position and run.
I don't want any of you to die. Do you want me to hire an exterminator?
Well, that's,
I
yeah,
have a Tyvek suit. I can go down there and.
I just don't
Look
want
like a
any of you to
space
put
man.
yourself at risk, you know?
I mean, that's what the neighbor was asking, that who sent me the email, was, you know, could we hire somebody to take care of this? And I don't see why not, other than it's, you know, it's quite a bit of distance from where I don't know if they have equipment in their vehicle that they would need to like run a hose or something. You know, it's 400 feet from the road.
It's a flood control area and it might be, let me see if it's groundwater. If it's our groundwater overlay district, we may have to do manual removal instead of pesticide.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. It is groundwater. Groundwater 1.
We probably couldn't even do spray then.
I wouldn't recommend it.
There is a lot of water right along that, so it's not going to be far to get into the water.
Yeah.
I'm just going to Google the price.
Yeah, so maybe someone with proper PPE can go in, you know, pry the boards off, which is going to disturb the nest and the bees are going to freak out.
Ooh, okay.
But
typical range is $100 to $1,300 with an average of $400. I have a paper wasp, hornet, or yellow jacket nest professionally removed. The location of the nest and the size of the infestation will play a role in it. Nests inside walls, which require carpentry repair, raise the total to above 1,000. So if you want to take a vote, maybe to spend money, I would say vote up to $1,000 for the removal, because over 1,000, I think we should get 3 cost estimates and you review them. I'm guessing it's going to be 400 because this is outside. So because of the range. But if you want to, you can make a motion and take a vote to spend up to $1,000 of your budget for me to hire an exterminator to manually remove the hornet's nest there.
They should be able to easily pry those planks up. If you're
I
in
agree.
PPE, they can probably knock it out in an hour, you know?
Yep.
yeah. Would someone like to make a motion to vote?
I move that we explore hiring a professional to remediate these angry hornets.
Okay. Do you want to vote to spend money or just for me to investigate and come back in a month and talk about it?
I think we can, I'd vote to spend money.
Okay. So that has
I'd
to be
vote
in the
spend
motion.
money.
Up to 1,000, or do you think you want to do less? 500, whatever you're comfortable with.
I feel like for an outdoor removal like that, like it should not be more than $400 or $500.
Yeah, I'll get 3 quotes. I always get 3 quotes and then we'll
That was
pick the
my
cheapest
feeling
one.
too. 500. Too bad we didn't notice it in the winter because they're dormant. You can just, I've done it before.
Yeah.
Just
Reach over there and just grab them.
Well, not quite that, but this was on a branch. So in the winter, I cut the branch and was able to just move the whole thing away.
I
It's
did
early
it
in the
once.
season too, so it might not be so big.
Yeah, I did the spray because I got stung by a yellow jacket. It was a nest in my garden and it got infected. I had to go on antibiotics. So I don't like using pesticides, but at that point, like me and my kids' health. So I did the spray and it didn't work. And then I went out and just like layered myself in canvas and it met its end with a shovel at midnight. So there's a lot of screaming from me. So I don't want anyone else to have to do that.
Oh, that would have been
Could you
quite
imagine
a
the
sight.
neighbors?
Well, yeah, I think getting 3 quotes is good. I think we could do a roll call vote on that topic.
So there was a motion by Brian and someone seconded it. Who was that?
Well,
Was there a
I
second?
said 500 was acceptable.
Okay. So a motion to spend up to $500 on an exterminator by Jim. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Forrest Lyford.
Thank you, Forrest. And then a roll call.
Okay. Bob Mahalik, I vote in approval. Bill Cobb,
I approve.
Craig Cox,
Yes.
Cheryl Devine,
I approve.
and Mary L. Stone.
I approve.
We still need votes from
Brian.
Brian, Jim,
Oh.
and Forrest.
Forrest approved.
I approve.
Brian Belfer
I approve.
and Jim Stein.
Sure.
And it'll be for manual removal, no pesticides.
Yeah. One question, how far is the distance from like where they could park to get to the nest? That might affect the cost.
It's across the meadow, so
Yeah.
it's at least 200 feet, and it could be as much as 400 feet.
That's not bad.
That's not bad.
It's a 5-minute walk at the most.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, I
Not
was
even.
thinking if it's difficult to get to somehow, that they might charge you more just for the, if they have to lug equipment across to it or.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, is like if they can't get their van near it.
I'm sure that's all hand tools and portable stuff.
Yeah,
They're not
that's
going to
what-
have to like run lines or anything.
I think the price might be influenced actually by the manual removal rather than they just go out and spray it with something.
I thought you used a
Yeah.
acetylene torch and you know, you gotta let
Burn
those
the whole meadow down.
So I would say too, Mia, depending when you're soliciting these quotes, if they have to pry off some of the boards to get at it, which I'm assuming they're going to have to do if they're going to dig at it with a shovel or something. As long as we're aware of the timing, we have extra lumber. They don't necessarily have to, put the boards in. If
Yeah,
it-
we
you
could
know,
totally do the repair work if they have
Okay.
to pull some boards, if there's a
Yeah.
cost savings.
Or can they just flip the bridge, flip the thing
It's
over?
it's
No.
all tied together.
Okay, yeah.
So that's what I was thinking I could do when I went out there in the winter, sort of lift it up and get under there and like dig or something, but I couldn't even lift it. It's all connected together.
All right, I'll try to hire someone.
Yeah, I think that would be the safe thing. So other than that, those two things, the Watson Park maintenance and then the bees, I didn't have much else. We just met, on the 27th of April. So it's only been about maybe 3 weeks since our last meeting. So not a heck of a lot of updates on my end for things, but I can open the floor. I think I'm allowed to anyone who wants to bring anything up. Just state your name and go for it. I see Cheryl.
I'm Cheryl Devine. Well, the poison ivy is coming up, and I know we talked a lot about poison ivy last fall.
Hmm.
And Mia, you had talked about doing some mapping of the poison ivy and trying to get it when it's new and fresh. So I'm bringing that to the committee to discuss now.
Can we rent goats?
Yeah,
No, I'm serious. I've heard that you can rent
Yeah,
goats.
they do.
it's
that
very
you-
expensive, but we can.
Oh.
And someone else called me about renting goats and it was near a wetland. I don't remember who it was. And I said, if you do, let me know because I want in. Maybe we can get like a group deal. There was another site. Might have been Ellsworth McAfee Park in the back. Maybe it's there was some other park in town that was getting overgrown. And so they had asked about goats. And I said, goats near a wetland are not a problem. So
What's the policy on that? This is Forrest Lyford. What's the policy on poison ivy control? Because I know there's some on our interpretive trail, even though it wasn't leafed out. I got marks to attest to that now. But I have a chemical. It's called it's for earmarked for poison ivy control. Can I just use that for treating it, or are there other rules and regulations that I have to be aware of?
I think Bob had a recipe that we were using last year. And last year we had talked about mapping and you guys were going to send me locations. The only locations I have are the senior center parking lot was the only locate, and,
I sent
yeah,
you
that was
Edmund
it.
Hill.
yeah, the entrance to Edmund Hill,
No, the
right?
whole thing. Last year, I
Well,
sent you the whole
Yeah.
thing.
No, I need like specific, you
Yeah.
know, like locations where it like a
Yeah.
stand of it is getting close to, so like the entire hill.
Yep.
I don't think we can do that. I don't think we have
No,
the
I was just-
capacity.
No, I was just, no, I took like pictures and identified the locations where there are patches
Oh, I
of
think you
poison
did.
ivy
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Edmund
yeah.
Hill.
Yep.
So there's like 8 places or something. It's
Yep.
not, it's not the
So we have
whole.
that. I
the
thought
whole
you said the
thing.
whole hill. I'm like, oh, I
No,
can't
no,
do
no.
all. And
I
then,
just hyped the whole thing to get the
Yep.
poison ivy mapping, but
yeah.
Yeah.
And then we could try to do like some digging out and replacement. But Bob had a recipe that you would all approve for use. It was like, what was it? Vinegar, Bob, and salt?
Yeah, vinegar with salt and a little bit
soap.
of dish soap. The idea behind the dish soap is it sort of breaks the surface tension a bit of the vinegar, and allows the vinegar to soak things better. And then the salt basically works like a desiccator and just sort of, impairs the ability of the plant to transport water, basically, and then ends up killing it.
Did it work?
Yeah,
Mhm.
you know,
You got to do it on a sunny day.
Yes, you do.
That stuff plus the
Early.
sun. Yeah, if you notice when the sun is going to hit your poison ivy and you spray just at the beginning of that, it really fries it up. I did some along the senior center parking lot with the disc golf. I had to go in and out of that area, and I thought this would be a great chance for me to try out Bob's recipe, and it worked really well.
Yeah, we did it in Edmund Hill last year too, like all of those places and a little bit on the farm trail. And if you can, I mean, what you just said, Mia, is right. If you can get it when the sun is just going to hit it, then it'll fry it. But otherwise, like in the more shaded areas, maybe not so good. Or maybe the areas that are more densely populated with poison ivy didn't have as good of an effect as the little less dense areas.
And then we had talked about ordering a bulk order of a thing called sweet fern, and it's a
Right.
natural competitor to poison ivy. So if you want to, we can look into that. I think the poison ivy is up enough that we've missed our window for this year. I think we'd have to do it in like early May, late April. But if you want, we could maybe put it on, what agenda would we put on? Maybe like the January agenda for next year, order it, put it in those locations on Cheryl's map and give it a try. I think we should pick one spot. We could even do that this year. We could pick one spot. Which spot do you want to try? Maybe not one with a ton of foot traffic because we don't want our seedlings to get trampled.
There are a few sprigs along the proposed accessible trail around the senior center, and I would vote for targeting those areas.
Makes sense.
It usually coincides with bittersweet vine, so maybe you could control both at the same time.
Let's see. I'm gonna see if we can order it.
what with the sweet fern, it's just you make like dig a little spade mark and just shove the plant in. Like, is it?
It's
Probably
yeah,
not.
you just get a little plant, either a plug or a seedling. And I only know of one stand of it in town, and the owner is changing this month, so I probably won't be given permission. Does anybody know of a stand of sweet fern? Do you know what sweet fern is? It looks like a fern, but it's a woody bush. If you know of any, we could go dig it up. The place I know, the owner had said when we were ready, we could dig it up, but now they're saying that they're actually closing. And I don't know the new owner yet. Like, welcome to town. Can I dig up your yard? It's Bartlett Street. It's on Bartlett Street.
I definitely have seen it in my travels. I'll keep my eyes open for it.
Okay.
Like,
Let's see. Oh, it's sold out here online. I could call nurseries, Sweet Fern Weston Nurseries. Gotta find somebody. Maybe Bigelow's has it.
I know there's sweet ferns around. I just can't put a place on it right now.
I kind of feel like on the aqueduct over by where you would access, like by the MWRA access and the new pump station they just built. So that kind of entranceway to the Crane Swamp. I kind of feel like that would be kind of like sandy soil too.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I've seen some of that around. And I'm not very susceptible to poison ivy, so I'd go and plant some sweet fern,
Oh, great.
even if the poison ivy's out.
So Mary, you're saying that you saw sweet fern over there? You think it would be a good place to put sweet fern?
No, I feel like I've seen it there, but I'll check tomorrow.
If anybody sees any, email me.
Okay.
They won't even know I'm there. I will go in a clump and take one from the middle. Do you want to spend any money and buy some if I can find it?
Might be better to maybe spend a little time looking for it naturally and
Okay.
and try it like a couple test areas.
Okay.
And because there was a gentleman joined a meeting one time a few years ago who was like a botanist or something like that. And he had some ideas on, he said basically like goats, for example, that's stuff it'll grow back the next year. You have to have goats every year.
Jim's showing what it looks like in his background.
That's
Yep.
sweet fern.
Oh,
It's
Yeah,
I've
got,
seen that.
it's
I was
got
just looking at Google
roundish,
images.
roundish leaves.
And does it all grow from like a single clump and sort of go up?
Yeah.
Looks that way.
Hmm.
I was just perusing Google images too.
Yeah.
From someone who's especially susceptible to poison ivy, and I've got scars to show it, I'd be in favor of just spot treating it. If we could use this vinegar and salt approach, I'd go
Yeah.
for that. I keep poison around, and whenever I see a sprig on my property, it's gone. Because I'm really very highly susceptible to poison ivy.
Comptonia peregrina.
Looks like that. It looks like a fern, but it's a bush.
Yeah.
And then when you rub it, it'll give you this like sweet, musty kind of smell.
Oh.
Not like a perfume, not a great smell.
Yeah.
but-
Oh, I'll look for some of that.
So if you see
Edible.
any,
Yeah, it's interesting concept, but I wonder if sweet fern, from my experience, grows mostly in barren, sandy soils.
Mhm.
And I don't know if that would do well in places where you often find poison ivy.
yeah, I don't think it'll work everywhere. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did look into purchasing a 55-gallon drum of vinegar.
And you were going to get on the list.
It's like $900 for a 55-gallon drum. And then I was thinking, how would we move it? Like if they delivered it to the shed, it's going to weigh 7 pounds a gallon. So it's going to weigh like 400 pounds. But yeah, because I was buying vinegar at like Walmart, 4 or 5 gallons at a time, but it gets pretty expensive that way. But yeah, I don't know if we, I'll certainly go buy some more just to spot treat some of the trailhead, get 5 gallons or something.
And if you submit anything, if you buy any large amounts of vinegar, submit for reimbursement. Takes a few weeks, but we can get you the money back.
Yeah, a gallon of vinegar costs about $2.50, I think. So
Yeah.
Salt is,
Look for acetic acid, and then you can water it down. It might be cheaper.
Yeah, it's hard to buy, acetic acid, concentrated acetic acid without a license. But yeah, that was something I was thinking of. We have it at work, but I can't take it from work. They call it glacial acetic acid. It's like essentially, I think vinegar is 5% acetic acid. And the glacial acetic acid it's pure.
Wow.
Essentially 99% acetic acid. So you get a gallon of that, you could make 20 gallons of
Oh gosh.
vinegar.
No, please don't.
But
I don't want to find your skeleton
Right,
on a boardwalk.
exactly.
I'll check the wallet.
right, I'll fall into the drum and
Yeah.
like in Breaking Bad, they decompose.
Yeah. So we'll look for some sweet fern. If we can find the poison ivy low enough, I can do it. If not, Bob says he's not susceptible. We can bring him the plants and find a test spot, see if it works.
I'm not susceptible either.
Oh, good.
I can do that.
I used to not be, but now I am.
Good
So,
times.
yay.
Oh, I had it once when I was pulling poison ivy out of my garden. I had no idea what poison ivy was because I never had poison ivy before, so I hadn't learned it. Yeah, I got it that time.
That'll do it. Yeah.
But
Ripping
not
the
since.
plants
So.
All right, you can look into that. Anyone else want to bring up any subjects, anything? Marielle?
Yeah, I was just wondering if you had a chance to talk to the Del Webb people or Westboro people at all.
I did. I called over to Westboro. My contact there is the Westboro Mia. Her name is Sherry, and she's very nice. And so their conservation coordinator or director, I guess, he just left this week or last week. So she's the interim director, and she's kind of got a full plate, but she said she would look into it for us. She said as far as the closing for construction, they're going to be posting it on their website. So if anybody sees it on their website, I'm going to check. I'm going to try to check their website. If you see it and I haven't put it up yet, give me a call or an email, because once the construction goes to that pump station, the entrance to the trail, they're going to be posted on their website. We should also post it on ours. And then, and she doesn't know the timeline for construction, but it's just a removal. It's just a demo and removal. So they're going to put the erosion controls in. Once they start work, they'll close it off and they'll demo, remove, and get it out. Time is money, so they'll do it as quick as they can. As far as the Del Webb connection, she's going to look into the planning board decision. She said that they had looked into using the sewer easement. She doesn't really think that's feasible. So she has to check in with, I guess, I'm trying to remember why.
Because I've ridden my bike on it. It totally is doable. It's just a matter of maybe perception.
I think it's just the permissions.
Yeah. So then that too. So I mean, I don't know why I don't know. Just seems like it would be it'd be a really good way to connect like the Little Chauncey network over to without having to go on Lyman Street.
Yeah, it's not her project. This was just what she's not offering an opinion. She just said people were not receiving well because of the permissions, but it's not a done deal yet. And she doesn't know what the status is of the construction at Del Webb. She emailed the town planner and asked their town planner to follow up with me to let me know if they had made that connection.
Great, thanks for following up.
Sure, we'll see how it goes. I don't know if there was anything else. I made a list for that. Connection update coming, pump station construction closure. Oh, if you see anything, tell me. That's all.
And I was also wondering if anyone gave any more thought to sort of a trail network again, like on the School Street, Brigham Street section there. Again, I think I was really kind of thinking more on like, the town-owned property, and particularly like Brigham Street. So I don't know if you ran that by Scott at all.
No, I didn't. I need a consensus from the committee if you guys want to move forward or not. I know there was a discussion and you guys had kind of tabled it. So I just need to know if you guys want to move forward on that.
So yeah, no, understood. So I don't know. I mean, anyways, I have this idea for a project. You guys are interested, I think would be a nice way to create a little bit of a network. I know it doesn't really go anywhere, but it certainly helps pedestrians. Yeah, I saw that we recently got a grant in town to try to create some safe passages in town. Maybe there's a similar type of project like that too, that the DPW would be interested in, just to kind of create a better, safer pedestrian walkway through some nice section of town land.
What do you guys think?
Brigham Street is brutal. There's just no room at all.
Yeah, but it's lined with like people's property.
That's what I was thinking. How would you go and?
Oh, again, this is just a really short section that I'm like proposing that would connect. Again, Summer Street and School Street and Brigham Street are walked on quite a bit. Is by the golf course there, and the town owns property from where the golf training center is all the way to the DPW building that's at the corner at that four-way intersection. And then if you take a right, the town owns all the property in front of the Brigham Street well. And you could, then, so all that is owned by the town. So
Oh,
there's already a sewer easement that runs parallel with School Street that's on the town property that's mowed and maintained. And then there is no kind of trail network on the Brigham Street section.
So this is the sewer easement.
Right, and that's, that's where I know that that's not necessarily town-owned property, so
This, yeah,
I
this
wouldn't-
is,
that wasn't necessarily proposing that as part of, I guess, phase one, if you would.
oh, there we go.
I think that's the Sudbury Valley trustee property right there, or that.
This is owned by Juniper. I think this little piece.
Oh, that
is
one
the
is right.
Sudbury.
The other one's
Yeah.
by the golf course. So not necessarily that section. The section that's on the town property is where I was thinking of creating more of an access. Nope, across the street.
And then the town owns over
So
here.
starting onto that parcel is where my idea
how many acres is that?
focused on.
This is 41 about.
Wow.
I mean, it's all wet,
Right.
and this is a well, and
Yeah.
this is the water barn.
There is a zone one that's, but you can have, like we have a trail currently at the Lyman Street well, it would be sort of a similar idea. And it would just run along. So it's a very forested area along that section of Brigham Street from School Street up to, can you move the map up to the north a little bit, Mia? So you can see the southern section? Nope.
Oh, I see, the other way.
So it would create a better pedestrian sort of situation from Brigham Street where you can kind of cut out onto Sunset Drive. And actually, Mia, I was looking at like Milk Porridge Drive, there's that bent road or something like that. As a connection, that there's not, actually, it's a paper road on Milk Porridge Circle.
Oh, over to the left.
Yeah, and it's like, there's nothing there. I don't know what that is, but
It's a
looks like
drain easement.
No, that's not where I am, but.
This one?
That could be, too. No, I'm looking over the other side of Milk Porch.
Here,
Right.
this?
Yeah, no, next to
No, that's a walkway.
parcel 83, 120. That's probably, it could be a drainage.
Here,
easement.
that's a drain easement as well from
Yeah, but what's that road?
here.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me
That.
show you the topo. Forrest and I know this area well. I grew up here next to Forrest. So do you see the topo here? It like really drops off, and this is people's. It's people's yards. I know it's technically like a paper street, but it's people's yards. Yeah. So I grew up right here. Little trip down memory lane. That was me, and this is where Forrest lived, and I was best friends with his daughter.
Yeah.
Y'all didn't know that. So
Yeah,
we grew up a stone throw from each other.
yeah. Many years ago, Mia's dad and I used to walk up School Street early in the morning and back.
So what
Yeah,
are
I'm
those
quite-
woods? I mean, could we have are there trails in there now, or could we make it?
No,
No, again, it's a combination
Yes.
of, pavement and wooded areas to create a safer walking network, particularly on the School Street, Brigham Street area, and to get people off of South Street. And the idea would be, again, try to create safer access to the connecting neighborhoods and the parks that are located off of South Street without, again, minimizing how much time you spend walking on South Street, which, has some, fun Harvey's trucks, just kind of like what Bartlett Street feels like these days. So anyways, I just have this idea and just would, if people would be interested in, me talking to Scott to see about the potential for at least some sort of little path that could be even cleared along that section of Brigham Street, just to get people off of Brigham Street when they're walking. That exactly, Mia.
Right.
Yeah.
I think this is a great idea.
That's a great
Yeah.
idea.
So I mean, I'd be happy
100%.
to meet someone out there if anyone wants to kind of like walk it with me and sort of see what the idea looks like in the field.
Mhm.
So
Scott or Mia.
it would have to come from you guys. So you would be the applicants and the proponents. DPW, they don't have the funding to do this. You'd have to, go to CPC or Trails Grant, or let me see, that grant was called the It was called the Winter Shared Streets Grant from Mass
Oh, you're talking about
DOT.
the one that they just got that,
Yeah.
yeah. and
Shared
I just think-
streets and spaces.
I actually sort of envision this, you know, we could start off as just a cleared path, but I do sort of envision this as being sort of more of like a paved, like a little bit of a bicycle, or a pedestrian path that would be a little more, and it would just follow the topography. I'm not talking about major grade changes or anything.
Yeah. And those woods are pretty open there. I think could,
They're really big, old oaks and stuff mixed in there. It's pretty.
yeah, and I don't think it would just be like, rake it out and then paint some blazes on the trees and there it is.
It's kind of just clearing some of the big branches that have fallen, and there's very little bit of an understory. So yeah, it would be relatively easy.
Nice to make a loop through that whole thing.
Hadn't thought that
Ultimately.
far, but I hear you.
Yeah.
But it is pretty wet back there.
There's no.
And I think part of that,
deadline.
where's that swimming pool club off of,
That's actually right behind my house.
yeah, because they own some property.
It would abut between, so in between that parcel would be the golf driving range, training area, and then eventually that would abut the property that the North Court owns.
North Court, that's it.
I cannot find a date on it. It looks like it's still open.
Oh, do you want to apply for another grant you're talking about, ma'am?
Yeah, this would be shared streets and spaces.
Okay.
And eligible projects would be pedestrian, any type of pedestrian access. I remember there was something where it had to connect, but
And I've lived on South Street my entire life, and I know your neighborhood of Milk Porridge. I remember walking through that neighborhood before Milk Porridge was there. We used to go for hikes in the woods. There are these major, almost like kettle hole features. There were these just really big areas that were like basins before that all got developed. It was interesting.
it wasn't a farm.
Nope. It was
Oh,
forested. Maybe parts of it were off of Brigham, but no, it was forested.
there's a plan showing a farm there, big chicken farm.
But I mean, closer to the 4 acres property there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's School and Brigham.
It says new or widened sidewalks, side paths. Yeah, it should work.
Sounds perfect.
Mia, if we just wanted to essentially rake a path through there and paint blazes on trees, I mean, we could do that essentially for free. We have paint and rakes,
Yeah, I
so
think
there's no obstacle there, but what in the way of permission would be required?
the water department, it's owned by water and sewer. I can
Oh, okay.
ask Scott.
I think if we could just sort of scratch the surface and see if we can just get permission for a dirt path initially and see what the topography is like, and then maybe
Yeah, at
longer
least to
term.
walk it and kind of just do a reconnaissance to see if it's even feasible.
Yeah,
It would be just along the street, right? Not going in near the wells.
right.
Right, exactly. It'd be pretty much parallel with the street, but enough to be it's kind of Brigham Street's kind of it kind of goes up. It's a little bit of at that intersection, it's kind of cut into the old slope that's there, and it kind of goes up in some sections, but for the most part, it would be just so people aren't right next to the road.
Yeah, we'd want to be maybe 20
Parallel,
feet,
but
25
yeah,
feet
no, we
in.
don't want to be anywhere near the wells. But
Yeah.
it would be close to 100 feet away, but I don't know if it would be 400 feet away.
Because I think within the right of way or right along the edge of the street would be easiest, but then there'd be no tree removal,
I don't think we have to do any tree removal unless, again, we went bigger I think what Bob's suggesting is certainly a nice start of just, whether or not we could just get a path that people could just walk on, whether or not it gets into something more paved or more developed at a later date is something just to
Yeah,
contemplate. I mean, let's see people even use it, start kind of small, and I don't think there's a lot of trees that need to be removed. Just a matter of moving branches and I mean, I think we could make it so it meanders a little bit. I think we prefer that it would like meander a little bit around the trees.
So I'll talk to Scott if you can rake in a dirt path. Did you want to explore the shared streets and spaces? Because we also have your ADA trail isn't done yet. So I know we were moving forward on finishing those loops and applying for funding for that. So
Is that at the senior center?
Yeah.
I would suggest holding off on a grant for this particular section until we kind of explore it more, see, you know, if it's something that there's support for and it gets used, and just see if we could just cut in, rake in, you know, some sort of path there, and then kind of see how it progresses, if at all.
All right, I'll ask if we can rake in a path. Is that the consensus of the committee?
Yes.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Wouldn't hurt. And if, you know, those sorts of paths, you know, if for some reason they say, okay, we don't want you there, 1 or 2 years, not even that sometimes, and the path just disappeared, you know, the leaves fall on it in the fall and the path's gone. But yeah, there are some tree branches down, you know, I don't think we'd have to cut anything live. It would just be some, you know, down tree branches and things like that, I think would be. And Marielle, you're thinking come down School Street and then along Brigham for the path?
Yeah, I mean, there's already the sewer easement that's mowed on the property that runs parallel with School Street. But there's really nothing on the Brigham Street stretch.
Right.
So you're thinking about this property.
Yeah, just right. Yeah, exactly right where you traced.
Yep.
Okay.
Do you want to meet sometime, Bob, and we can walk it?
Yeah, this coming weekend would work.
But yeah, that would work for me too.
Okay. Yeah, that would be neat. Check it out. Put on some tick spray.
Yeah. What time's good?
Oh,
Saturday.
usually the mornings.
Yeah, me too.
You know, like 9 o'clock on Saturday or something.
That works.
All right.
Anyone else wants to join us? Scott, as long as Scott's okay, Mia, that we at least do that.
I
I'll
might.
ask
Where
him.
will you actually meet?
I would meet at the town barn. That's right at the corner of the intersection. on the
There's
town.
construction
Town
going
barn.
on there.
Yeah, there
It
is.
should be okay on a Saturday, but
All right. I mean, I'll just ride my bike. So I won't have to park anywhere.
Right, likewise.
Can you send an email on that? I might try to join too.
You need a bike, Jim?
What?
I have a bike.
Right. One thing I forgot to mention, switching gears completely. So, and Craig, you might be involved in this too. So the bridges on Stirrup Brook, I think we have approval to go forward with that.
So Jeff Kerr was mostly heading that up.
Oh, it was Jeff. Sorry, I'm getting you mixed up.
Yeah, we were chatting briefly. I was actually hoping Jeff would be here tonight to give us an update on where they are. Bob, they were supposed to have presented, I think at least Cameron was supposed to have presented his plan to you for you to sign. Did you guys ever connect?
So I got an email 4 days ago from him that I just happened to read today. And I think, Mia, did they?
yeah, they
Did go-
needed it for a meeting that night, so I signed it.
Yeah.
They were like, the
Right.
meeting's tonight. So
That's good planning.
Yeah, I haven't seen other than going when we walked on the trail with them, Brian, to look at the various locations, I haven't seen their plans yet. For the.
All right, since I've had some emails, I'll reach out to Jeff and Cameron or Cameron's dad and just try to feel out where they are, and then I'll just shoot an email back to the group with a status update, I guess.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Anyone else want to bring up any topics? Brian Belfer?
So most of the Sliding Boulders Trail is raked in. There's a couple spots where I have to do a little saw work to clear a little bit of large fallen timber. But you should all go out there and give it a walk, because it's not far from getting it completely done and ready to get blazed and somehow put on a map somewhere. So best way to find it right now is to start from the senior center and go up the trail to where that huge round boulder is. It's immediately on the trail.
Mhm.
And the new trail starts off to the left, right around that boulder. And then it zigzags across the hill, crosses the old trail a couple of times.
Yeah, I walked the west side of that the other day, Brian. It looks really good. Easy to follow. It looks good.
I was on it. I don't know, Bob, you were there too. We walked it together. It looked very interesting because it has a lot of nice little features and winds around and some good configuration. So I thought it was really nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really interesting to see. And that was the first close-up look I had of, I guess, I don't know if it's the main primary sliding boulder, but I mean, you can really see this enormous rock with just this pile of debris in front of it. It looks like, it's just been pushed down the hill. And, I've heard you talk about it for us and describe it, but it was cool to see the trail just go right by it when Bill and I were walking on it. It's a pretty cool feature.
Yeah, after planting a post there, I think I have a better idea now why those boulders are sliding, but I won't go into that right now.
Why?
Bedrock?
Yeah.
You must have
Well,
had some
when I
bedrock.
dug the post hole, I was digging in mud. It was gooey mud, and so that's what those boulders are resting on. You don't see that on the north side of the hill, and I think you can explain that from knowing a little bit about the glacial geology of the area and how drumlins are formed.
We need to buy some pile screw things. And
Stop
have
it, Jim.
You're trying to stop it from sliding any further?
The boulder's not going anywhere.
Not in our lifetime.
Not quickly.
Yeah, but that looked like a lot of work, Brian. Thank you for doing that.
Yes, thank you. That's awesome.
That's not easy raking in there. When I was helping with the disc golf course, I mean, it's tough going through there. It's pretty dense. So that definitely looked like a pretty big effort.
I think he was in there on a rainy day too, weren't you, Brian?
I've been up there many days, but not this past weekend, but the weekend before. I had a couple people out there with me. So
Excellent.
So speaking of the sliding boulders, and that might segue to our interpretive, Cheryl and I'll call it our interpretive trail. We're making pretty good progress on that. The narrative is pretty much prepared. The posts are planted. The interview, the oral part of it is pretty much completed. I want to visit 2 or 3 stations where we'll make some redos. I've got more information now than I had when we did that, so I think we'll redo those. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on? What's your perception on that, Cheryl? You think we're almost there?
Yeah, we're almost there. I mean, like I said, next weekend probably is a good time for us to, Spencer's pretty much done with high school at this point. So it'd be a good time to do the shooting of the extra video that you want to do. And we've been working on the written part, looking for pictures to add to both of those things. And then we'll just need to do the QR codes. And I think we're good to go. I mean, I think it'll be, I don't know, maybe a month. We'll try to go faster.
Yeah, we've already talked about it'd be nice to have a map.
Started. Oh yeah, the map. That's right. We were talking about the map, how to do that.
Yeah.
Does anyone know anyone who's good at mapping? We were remember we were collecting data, we got CMRPC, gave us a bunch of data. And then I was gonna work with our MIS GIS person. COVID hit, and his name is David Kane, and he got pulled into COVID. He had to basically pivot everyone at town hall to work remotely. So he had to create, new servers, VPNs, get everybody a laptop. So now he is also the MIS GIS director for the police department and the fire department. So he's actually running the clinics that were at the senior center. So he became even less available. I mean, he's doing great work. And now he's on leave for a month. He's on medical leave for a month. So when he comes back, he's going to have a backlog. And we're still at the end of COVID, where we might be pivoting to more of a hybrid meeting where some people are in person. They haven't decided yet about that. So he's going to remain unavailable. And in addition to that, the person who was helping him with general IT retired. So there is no hope on the horizon for any mapping. It is my construction season. So, I used to do ArcGIS 10 years ago. I would love to have the time to relearn it and do the maps, but I'm just swamped. So I don't know if there's anyone you can think of, because I know our maps need an update. We have a bunch of data. We even have a great GIS unit, a GPS unit that we can get more data.
Does it need to be someone like employed by the town, or what are we looking for? Because I can post up a help wanted looking for someone on the Facebook group and see who chimes in, but I'm not clear what exactly the qualifications need to be.
But they know how to use ArcGIS and the layers that go with it. And then once we can create maps and layers.
Yeah, you want real maps. I mean, I can do pictures. That's Bob and I created that Wegmans book from maps and drawing lines over top of pictures, pretty much.
And mine are okay. Mine are basic, but they're not what we're looking for.
Well,
Well,
we could start with something that's basic and then just get a better map when we can get a better map.
I might be able to do basics, like I said, drawing lines over top of pictures. But you won't get your GIS layers. The data probably won't be reusable. It might not be accurate, down to the real path.
That's what we'd like. We have the GPS data for the new Summit Trail to the south. We have it for the Johnson Trail, which is that connector on Pisgah that you guys decided to keep and name and blaze. And the new, we had on Pisgah, we had rerouted the name of the trail, Brian.
Sparrow.
Yeah.
We had rerouted trail. We have the data for that. Just when I put it into ArcGIS, it's like off. And so there's something wrong. Like the way I'm inputting it, I need someone with the next level who's like, oh, you're putting it in the wrong something or other. I'm stuck.
Would this be, I guess, would this be like a contract gig? Are we looking for
No.
professional help that can get paid for some number of hours of work, or just a volunteer who knows how to do it, who can get granted access to the town GIS?
That's up to you guys. If you want to pay someone, it would be very expensive. Those people are, so maybe we'd look for
I don't
someone.
think
a
Are there
volunteer.
college courses that someone would want that experience?
Internship?
I
Do
can
an
ask,
internship with the Trails Committee.
I think,
Yeah.
doesn't Sudbury Valley trustees, they've generated a lot of maps.
they
I bet
have.
they have the expertise.
Yeah, you're
That's
right,
right.
Rust. His name is Dan Stimson. I'll ask Dan if
Stimson.
he has any time to help me. Maybe he can help me when I'm loading up there, show me what I'm doing wrong.
Yep.
Mm.
Bob's
That's a
worked
good
with
idea.
him a couple times.
Yeah, Dan's a very nice guy, very
Yeah,
helpful.
he's a nice guy.
Always
See,
always seems to be available for, whatever needed.
Can we
Yeah.
contract with them for our CRs? So maybe if we have to contract Dan, we could get a price.
Mm.
Yeah.
He could help me. I'll ask him to help me see what I'm doing wrong when I'm uploading the data. And then if it becomes like, a 3-4 hour meeting, I can ask him to price out how much it would cost for him to do that.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
because, we refer people to maps on the website quite a bit. And so I think it would be us to have them as current and accurate as possible.
And they maintain, SVT maintains the community-wide, like the multi-town map of Pisgah. So I could give him our new data. Maybe he and I could work on that together and he could show me how to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually, that would be a good sort of training thing of, say, we rerouted Sparrow, we have new, this new Johnson Trail. Could you guys work together updating just that map, and then maybe those skills then you could apply, say, to, Edmund Hill or
Yeah.
something.
Yep.
I'll give him a call. Good idea, Forrest.
Yeah.
All right. Any other topics?
I have a
just
couple
wanna-
when you're after. Go, Bill.
I was gonna bring up, somebody recently had asked me where the Coyote Trail started because they couldn't find it. And so I went down there and looked around at it, and I'm like, yeah, I think it needs a little cleaning out. So that little section behind the kiosk all the way to the
Yeah.
back where the river is was really, really overgrown. So a couple weeks ago, I cleared it all out. It's actually usable now, and I blazed it blue so you could actually find it again. Most people were using that. I think it was the DCR right-of-way road to get to the bridge,
Mhm.
because the other trail was just not passable. So it's all cleared out now. And then I met a couple of fishermen, and they were very pleased with the work. So,
We posted about it on Facebook. These are
oh
the
yeah,
pictures.
I
That's
think
great.
that was the picture. Yeah, that was, yeah. So I cut the grass, and now you can actually get through there now.
Good.
Thank you.
So
That's
anyway,
great.
that was the only
Very
update
nice.
I had.
Nice job, Bill.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's a lot of pricker bushes in there. I remember walking through there and getting my arms torn up.
Yeah, I used a power hedger to get rid of all those. Well, it's going to be a work in progress because they're going to come back in 10 minutes,
I had just a couple updates.
Okay, Mia.
You had asked me to check about electricity at the shed. I did
Oh,
hear from
yeah.
the police department. There is electricity out there in the parking lot. Let me read. I didn't really understand what he wrote, but he got back to me really fast. There's electrical outlets on the side of the tan storage trailer. So it's close by if you want to charge anything, if you want to run a line into the shed from there, or if you wanted to spend the money, we could hire an electrician, knowing that there's conduits, electrical conduits out there. We'd have to hire an electrician to wire up the shed.
Yeah, when we were doing some Eagle Scout projects, basically what we would do is we'd build a 12 by 12 deck in that parking lot. And then we'd plug in a saw up at the trailer and run the extension cord down. And then we cut that deck into, they're typically 4 sections that are 3 feet wide. And then we transport those to whatever trail needed them. So yeah, we've used that power source. The only thing I was wondering is, was it the chief who replied?
Yes.
So he mentioned to me that whole area may undergo some sort of renovation to make like an impound lot. And I just didn't know if that was imminent or not. Like we could get maybe a conduit run into the shed, only to find out 6 months later we have to move the shed.
Okay. I can ask him.
The power over there though is at the trailer that's on the wood side, and then there's parking lots. They're not going to be able to run a conduit over to the shed because you'd have to either bury it or do overhead wiring. So there's not the it's in the current location. There's no practical way to run power to the shed. I mean, there are outlets there, so we're going to do work. Just use an extension cord temporarily, but it's not. And that power is already like a semi-temporary looking outlet on the side of that storage trailer. So I don't think, code-wise, I don't think you can extend that out any further.
We could add outlets to the shed with a long extension cord. So you essentially have to run one extension cord from the shed to a power source. And then the shed would have a bunch of places to plug in ready.
Yeah,
It's just convenience. It's not, doesn't really do much otherwise.
I mean, we could have it, it would at least allow us, if they're doing something, we could have a light inside the shed. But yeah, like Brian said, the extension cord would run across essentially parking area. Yeah, there's usually 2 or 3 cars. I think it's some of the officers parked there, their personal cars. Certainly in the winter, the plow would hit the cord if we left it there.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. I think, we've gotten by for years without it. The 2 main things it would allow us to do would be to have light inside the shed, but then also any electrical, batteries that need to be charged, that we could do that in the shed.
I mean, if you want to do like a trickle charger, we should just buy like a little solar panel and put up on the top of the shed and do
I was
it
just
that
gonna
way.
say-
That's
And
a
that
good
way it's just
idea.
independent of
That's a
any
great
other
idea.
electrical.
Yeah,
Let me look into pricing that
thinking.
out and seeing if, we can get something just so we can like trickle charge some tools or something, or have a little LED work light inside the shed.
That's a great
Good
idea.
idea.
And I just emailed the chief to ask if there was any plans for moving the parking lot and if our shed would need to be moved.
Yeah, and if they do relocate the shed at some point and rearrange that whole place, then maybe we see if we can get actual shore power run to it.
He already replied. He
No.
says no, someday, but not anytime soon.
I like the solar panel idea, Brian.
That's on his wish
Hey, that's
list.
a good idea.
Yeah,
A battery.
Yeah, even just getting light in there would be nice.
Yep. It'd be light and tools that can be charged.
Yeah. Because I don't know what the output of those solar panels is. 100 watts, maybe.
It depends on the solar panel.
It's
Yeah,
good
I'll,
to charge a battery too.
yeah, I'll have a look at it.
Okay.
And then it could move if the shed gets moved. It would just go with it.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's no plans to change the lot anytime soon. Okay. And then the other update, you would ask me to reach out to MWRA about any damage the bridge has met and had to be fixed. And so I started with the police department, and since 2011, I gave a property address between 2 properties. So possibly it's not all the bridge, but seeing it's probably all the bridge. 67 crashes, 54 with property damage. So, but then the police officer I talked to, Officer Carlton, that could be from another note. I think it was Officer Carlton. He said that, he's like, I don't know of any damage to the bridge. He says, I've never seen a mark on that thing, and it takes out UPS trucks, FedEx trucks. And then I did get a hold of Sean Nathan from MWRA. He also does not know of any damage reports, but last year they did do like an update on the condition of the bridge. And so he was going to look into getting that to see if there was any damage from car accidents, but I don't think there's even a mark on that thing. And it takes out, 54 cars in 10
it's a
years.
beast.
Yeah.
So we'll see what the report says, but I'm pretty sure it's nothing. And then I was talking to Sean. I gave him the update about the utilities. We're still waiting from Grid to get an engineering cost estimate hopefully to confirm that we can move those wires and get an engineering cost estimate and then go for CPC. So just the next item that we talk about, I want you to remember this, that we are going to get a cost estimate. It's going to be $100,000 to $300,000 to move those wires from above into the road. And if Grid comes back next month and says, yes, there's room in the right of way, it's going to be $150,000. We can start construction when you got funding, and that's going to be design included. They're going to design it and the cost to put it in the ground. Then it would be up to you guys to apply for CPC this fall to construct it July 2022. So if this all starts happening now, we can now start, if we know we're going to do this, we can start petitioning MWRA to surplus the bridge and we can buy it. I asked Sean to come up with a price. He thinks it's gonna, at first, he thought it was just gonna be a vote from his committee and the town would have right of first refusal. We would just buy it and they would parcel it out so that no developer would want it. There'd be no buildable space on either end. And then now he's thinking that the correct process is that it has to go to DCAM, the Department of Capital Assets and Management and Maintenance. That process is a little hairier. It's a little harder to get through at DCAM, but I do have some connections now because of what they're doing over on Lyman Street. I would definitely, cash in my chips and try to get them because it would go to state agencies first. I can't imagine any state agency would want that bridge. And then it would go to the town and they would give us a price for it. I imagine this would pass. Like, I imagine we wouldn't get, like, this has been a long time goal of so many people, but that's CPC this year. That's the fast track. That's the fastest it will go. Slower is, it's a little longer. That cost for getting those wires moved is huge. So we have to move the bridge, or if the cost is really huge, we have to go for design this year, construction of the wires next year, purchase the bridge year 3. And I know this has been a big goal for you guys. This is your phase 3 of your 8M permit. Another great reason why, like, this is the fruition of a project and this is your priority project. So that's the update. Any questions on that?
Yeah, any chance of cost sharing with moving the wires? It seems like it shouldn't just be our responsibility to pay for it. It's
They
like,
have no desire to move the wires. They have no need.
well, they created the problem.
It's not a problem. When they constructed it, it wasn't a pedestrian access. They made it clear that the cost would be 100% on us.
So, in order to proceed with writing the CPC funding application, do we need a solid estimate from them,
Something,
or can
yes.
it be a ballpark?
No, they're going to give us because Grid is the one who would do the work.
Mhm.
So they would give us the cost for engineering. I'm trying to think, I think the engineering might either be reduced or free. And then the cost for construction. Charter Spectrum, there's a $2,000 fee for their engineers to design. And the third utility was Verizon. They're looking to see if there's a fee. I believe Grid was not going to charge us a fee for the engineering, and that's to create engineered plans. So that is, that would normally cost up to $30,000 to get a set of engineered plans. And I believe they would just give that to us. And then we would be responsible for the construction costs because they just have no reason to move it. Everything's fully functioning for them.
Yeah, as soon as we have that number from them,
We can apply for
I'll
CPC.
start working on the grant.
Okay, and when we do fundraising, we could look for other funding sources, but just, every time we talk about projects, we're like, CPC, get a grant. We can only do so many a year, and then actually having the capacity to manage and implement these as well.
Mhm.
So we want to make sure, and I want to make sure I'm doing what your priorities are, because I don't pay taxes here. So I'm just your staff. I serve you. I want to know what your priorities are and move forward on your priorities, which is why I always say, what's the consensus of the committee? What are your priorities? Any other questions about the bridge?
Yeah, I mean, I think opening up the whole aqueduct corridor, because I was riding on the part down near Lyman Street, Saturday, I went out there, and I was just thinking how awesome it would be just to be able to ride right up over the Assabet River, go through, around through Edmund Hill Woods, and then keep going north, and you can connect to Mount Pisgah on the northern part of the aqueduct. I mean, that would be epic.
And think
Yeah,
about the
okay.
long term. There's the engineering, there's the construction of the wires. Then next is getting the bridge. The next part of the project is replacement of the decking and installation of security railings / fencing, which the Waban Arches was over $1 million. Our bridge is shorter. It's like half or a third of the length, but it's still going to be a big ticket item. This is all before we get it, but you just got to keep plugging away. We got to keep taking those expensive steps.
Yeah, which board who would be ultimately the owner of it? Like, I know, like, the Conservation Commission kind of oversees, like,
They would
Pisgah,
hold the land.
So
yeah.
they would be the Conservation Commission that would hold
Yeah.
it?
We'd have to convince them. I think they would. because it was you guys, this is before I was here, you guys pitched that 8M permit, and to get pedestrian access, it was always a long-term goal was that the town would have to take ownership. Maybe the Board of Selectmen would take it.
Well, I wonder DPW, just because it's kind of a bridge-like structure. I don't know.
Maybe
The garden club.
the garden club, see if they'll hold land. So I think we want us to do, because, I don't know if garden club's 501c3. We don't want to have to pay taxes on
It's
it.
Junior Women's Club, actually, Bob. We've talked about.
Oh, is that the
June-
technical name?
Yeah, no, well, that's a different club, I think, than the Garden Club.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's great. I mean, any progress on that, I think, be welcome.
Okay. The next thing I wanted to say is that I talked to Greg Young, the chairman of the Conservation Commission, and we have put the expansion of the Pisgah parking lot on the June 14th Conservation Commission agenda. So if anyone would like to attend, you had talked about your willingness to come to a meeting and discuss it. Just a brief update, the Conservation Commission, when I brought it up to them before, they said that they really didn't receive it favorably, the expansion possibility. They thought that maybe the overflow was due to COVID. But I think, I talked to Greg, and this was here before COVID. I observed it, you observed it. And COVID is now coming down. People are going back to their offices and the demand is still there, which is why we waited 2 months so we can say, not everybody's working from home anymore, and it's still, that overflow is still there. And I also checked in, I don't know if I told you last month, with a few land managers who said, you really need to respond to your use. Once you try to prohibit use, you have to take big steps. A smaller parking lot is not going to prohibit use. You have to have gates, locked gates, Jersey barriers, things to really keep people out to prohibit use. A smaller parking area is not going to prohibit use. You need to respond to the use or take big measures to prevent the use. So I think the consensus, the commission wants to manage it as a wild area. That's going to be a balance. You guys are going to have to work with them because, it's not a wildlife management area. It is a public access trail system, which is receiving more use than what it can handle, the parking area, I mean. So if anyone could come to the meeting, have that discussion. I think DPW may have put together a cost estimate on the expansion of the parking lot because the town administrator's office had asked them, because the town administrator is also interested in expanding that parking.
Yeah, what time is that meeting?
Starts at 6 p.m.
Oh, six.
We won't get to this till later, to like 7:30 at the earliest. Maybe just tune in at 6 and watch some Netflix or something till we get to, I'll wave. So that is also going to be a big ticket item. I know we always say CPC, grant. Remember, these things are going to end up competing with each other, which is why I'm bringing up the last item is that the Open Space Committee is putting the Boston Worcester Airline trolley on their next agenda. That agenda has not been set yet. They're waiting for another project it's going to take like 4 to 6 weeks. It's an appraisal. Once that appraisal gets completed, we're going to schedule the next meeting. So it hasn't even been scheduled yet. But one of their committee members requested the item to be put on the next agenda and the chairman approved it. So I know there's been a lot of talk on your Facebook page, so I'll keep you guys posted, but just, they come in about 2 years ago. You were very supportive, but it didn't reach your priority to move forward on any part of it. So just maybe start thinking about that. Look at the information again. There's some links on your Facebook page that are being shared with more information. It's not my project. I really don't have a horse in this one.
Don Byrne.
Yeah.
If it's not your priority, it's not my priority, and it wasn't your priority, so I haven't moved forward.
Yeah, it's he's got a lot of enthusiasm for it, for sure. And the parts of it that would go through Northborough are tricky to deal with. There's buildings in the way, like things like that, which are pretty big obstacles. I mean, if we're talking $100,000 to $300,000 just to bury some wires, moving buildings, trying to, cross over Route 9 on a pedestrian bridge over Route 9. mean, that's like $1 million.
Oh, really?
see.
He wants to cross Route 9 with this?
Somehow it has to, over near Walmart and Target. Somehow it's got to get,
Oh,
maybe,
yeah.
I don't know, a walk signal at Route 9 and Otis Street.
Or under 135. Where 135 goes underneath Route 9, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. And I know Don, he's been working on this for a while, so he probably has a few ideas on how to do it, but it's tricky. It's a lot of it almost seems to be like winding back the clock a bit because there's so much development in some of these areas that are big obstacles. But yeah, it's good. Maybe he's got some more information and to present. So certainly wouldn't hurt to hear it out.
So the open space committee member was Ashley Davies. She requested to be put on the agenda. She said she was going to get an update from other towns and where they're at and bring it to the meeting.
Okay.
So, I will send you guys the agenda when it gets posted, and it will be on there. And if you participate in the discussion, even if just to gather the information and bring it back to this group. And I, the consensus that I'm seeing on social media, I just read the social media. I'm not really there. I just read it. So I'm not allowed to post as a town employee on social media, which I think is a great policy. I'm not being sarcastic. I really do think it's great. But I'm seeing that people are saying Trails Committee is the one you need to talk to. So it's going to end up back here.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be good for you guys to follow.
It'd be good to get a refresher about the route. And I kind of thought Northborough had hurdles, but I thought some of the other communities like Shrewsbury, there are even bigger hurdles. So it'll be interesting to see if he's made any progress in any of the other towns.
And Ashley's going to collect that and bring it to the meeting.
Okay.
I mean, it would be great to be able to ride your bike into Worcester safely.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, there's definitely no good
dream. It's
way.
just expensive.
What's that, Marielle?
I said it's a nice dream. It is a nice vision. I do like the idea. It's just it comes with a big price tag.
And just as we talk about all these projects that we brought up, the sidewalk along Brigham and School, it sounds like it's just labor, but we've got the ADA accessible trail at the senior center with a price tag, and we've got the Aqueduct Bridge is going to have a price tag. And what else do we talk about? The parking lot at Mount Pisgah. These are all going to be big projects, and CPC is, I think, 600 to 800,000 a year, and we're not going to get all of it. Even by law, we can't take all of it. Some of it has to go to affordable housing. Some of it has to go to recreation.
That's a good point for the wires, to change the wires. Would we have to come up with all the money up front, or could it be over a number of years, like 50,000 a year to get to the 150,000?
I think we'd have to have the money. Maybe we could do some fundraising. Maybe we could do, it's just not an attractive project for fundraising. Like we say, hey, we're doing this big project, donate money, and everybody donates money. And they're like, we reached our goal. You still can't walk on the bridge. We're still way far away from that.
Yeah.
So maybe save the fundraising for, I think the biggest ticket of the big project is going to be the replacement of the decking and the installation of security fencing. That's going to be the biggest one. And that's where we can really, once this is complete, you guys can walk on it.
Well, Bob, I thought that they were going to help us with the fencing.
That was a few years ago. And it was Sean Navin? Sean Navin worked with a lady, and I forget her name, and she's since retired. But that was
they just want to sell it to us.
He brought that up, that they could do that, because I went out there and measured it. I think it's 425 feet long. We need 850 feet fencing. And, she asked me, you go see how much it is. And I gave her that number, and she's like, oh yeah, we could probably contribute that to the project. I should have got it in writing.
Yeah.
Not that would mean anything either, but yeah, so we'll see. I don't know, Jim, with the way budgets work and personnel turnover.
And there's trails grants and fundraising. Not everything is CPC. We're gonna have to look
Yeah.
at, but each grant, each application, I think you guys know my number one job is actually to issue wetlands permits and inspect. I enjoy working with you more. It's more fun than inspecting, construction projects, but that's my regulatory role. And so I have to do that first.
Yeah.
So I don't think I don't have the capacity, but you guys are good you did the 8M permit, right?
Yeah.
So I'll just have to start leaning on you guys and be like, you fill out this grant application.
Yeah, Kathy, that too.
Mhm.
Connect.
Yeah.
And
Question too.
Forrest, you know Norm Corbin, right?
Yes.
So Norm was even saying because that bridge is historical, in some registry somewhere, I think that perhaps there could be funding, from the historical society. I don't know what aspect they would be interested in, if anything, but that could be a potential thing too of getting some additional input from various town groups.
Mhm.
Mia, do you know if you said that there was a bridge like this in Framingham or somewhere where they did
The Wobbin Arches.
and did they does the town and where that's located, do they buy the bridge too?
I'll have to see who owns it.
Okay.
I think it might be I went to a presentation on it, but it was held by the Regional Planning Commission. Okay.
Framingham has one too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's actually a Chronicle article
Oh,
about
nice.
the bridge in Framingham. I got all excited because they were showing people walking across the finished bridge in Framingham. And it looks just like ours.
Do you know who owns it?
No, I don't.
Did Echo something? What's the other? They have names. There's the Wobbin Arches. I forget the name of the other bridge. But yeah, there are two.
It'd be good to connect with them just to say like, hey, what was your biggest hurdle? What kind of funding sources did you use?
Right. Where you buy the fence from? Even the surface, did they have to do anything to the surface? Did they use pressure treated lumber?
How much
Did
do they pay for
paved?
their bridge?
They had to scrape it and kind of blacktop it. And it had to all be done with small machinery. That's why it was so expensive.
One other thing about that, the bridge, I run into situations where things that are in historical registers may have restrictions and modification. Do we know if this is a local list, is it on the Department of Interior list, or sometimes you can get screwed where they don't let you change anything because it's historic and you have to keep the original form. Whereas, to enhance the safety railing, you may not be able to do it. Do we know what register that's on at this point?
I'll ask. That's a really good question for the other towns.
Yeah.
Forrest, do you know?
Well, I should, I guess, because I went through this for the Historical Society building. But you mentioned Norm Corbin. Actually, coincidentally, I'm having breakfast with him Wednesday morning. So we'll talk about the bridge a little bit, about the Aqueduct Bridge. I don't know. It seems like it'd be appropriate to. It seems like it would qualify for the National Register of Historic Places, but Norm would know more about that than I would. Then, of course, once it's registered, then there should be funds available for preservation.
One of the things that we've run into in the past in other places is something on the Interior Register can't be modified outside of its original design. So we may have to be very careful about it as far as what can be done. Make sure that we know we can do modifications to it later on. We don't want to end up with a paperweight that we can't do anything with.
Yeah, when I went up to measure the distance to get the estimate for the amount of fencing that was required, it looked to me like the surface of that bridge had been paved several times with asphalt, like you'd find on a regular road. And you could see where it was worn away. There was another layer of asphalt underneath it, and then even like a third. I mean, it's certainly anything we do to the surface of that would certainly, it would improve it, but there could be restriction. I agree for sure.
There's a number of plaques on the right at the roadside, so it should be pretty easy to see what it's on. Because I assume if it's registered somewhere, it would have a plaque right there at public viewing.
Yeah, I think Forrest put in one of those plaques for that bridge.
What's that? The plaque?
Yeah, there was remember you guys had the signs
that's-
along the aqueduct?
No, we took those.
It's an Eagle
You're
Scout
talking about the
project.
copper plaque. Yeah, that was placed there by the historical commission, not the society. It's the commission, or the town's commission that placed those. If that's what you're talking about here.
Yeah.
Yeah, one time Norm and I had placed pictures along the aqueduct, but that was a couple of years ago now. Those have been removed.
Yeah, we'll see what we can do. Anything else anyone wants to bring up? Trying to get the proper language right. So would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Thank you for it. So I think maybe we have to do a roll call vote to adjourn.
Yes.
So I'll just go around the order that you appear on my screen. Forrest Lyford.
I agree to adjournment.
Okay. Bill Cobb,
Approve the adjournment.
Cheryl Devine,
Approve adjournment.
Ariel Stone,
I approve.
Craig Cox,
Yes.
Jim Stein.
So if I object, what happens? Are we stuck in
You just
limbo?
stay here forever.
No, you're outvoted.
Majority rule.
Majority,
You're
yeah.
outvoted.
I approve.
Brian Belfer.
I approve.
Before you
And,
leave, next meeting date.
Oh, I don't have a calendar. Want to try to do the third Monday of June?
June 21st.
Okay.
Let me see if that's a third one. Conservation's meeting the 14th. Yep. So June 21st, is that okay?
That sounds
I
good.
think so. We have that new holiday in there too, the Juneteenth.
Juneteenth.
Yeah, so I know,
Okay.
I mean, I know some offices falling on a Saturday. Not that it matters
Is
necessarily.
that a day off now?
It's an official state holiday now that it is a paid holiday.
Saturday, June 19th.
Probably that Monday, June
Did we
21st.
lose another one? No, I don't have any days off in June.
Okay, okay.
Okay. It hasn't
Falls
reached
on a
municipal
Saturday
yet.
this year, so it's June 19th is when the holiday is, so.
June 21st is a solstice.
Okay.
Maybe we can meet in
Don't
person
put
under
that
the
off
full
either.
moon.
Right.
All right. Well, that was, and I'll concur with the motion to adjourn, Bob and Holly. I think that's it.
Sorry.
I
And
think
we
that's
just-
the official.
just-
Right. That's our official gavel sound.
Sorry. I have an alarm at 8:51 every night to make sure my son took his medication. So,
Oh.
so I do
All right,
have to
everyone.
go. No.